Walls and Barriers is a collaborative project that was conceived in dialogue with the Ella Natsui retrospective at the Royal Ontario Museum.
The working method of Ella Natsui uses locally found materials and combines them to transform their meaning into something that has much more cultural and historical resonance.
With just one or two methods used, he takes an entire medium and turns it into an entirely other concept.
For the Walls and Barriers project, we chose these plexiglass panels to be sort of a foundation, a kind of uniform material that all the students could then manipulate, add images to, add words, add color, add three-dimensional shapes, and that would be combined in the same way that Ella Natsui combines small elements together to create one larger piece. With Walls and Barriers, we're creating these, we're combining about 500 individual panels to create one large wall artwork that relates to Ella Natsui's method, but also spins it out into something that is more relevant to our local conditions and our local culture.
Ella Natsui has always been fascinated by walls, and so we've used the provocation of Natsui's Walls and Barriers to talk to young students about what they feel their ideas about walls and barriers are, and how they can actually put them into a panel and connect them with the thoughts and ideas of many, many other students involved in a collaborative, collective dialogue.
My dream for this project is that we can establish a permanent lab at the Institute to take this project province-wide and involve more youth in the discussion.
There's nothing like a venue or an exhibition, especially if it's public, that is real world, to inspire the students and have them feel that what they're doing is authentic.
When they actually come to the ROM and they get all dressed up and they see everybody outside of school time and see like the teachers dressed up and they see the other students around, they'll feel like they've become part of something a little bit bigger.
By exhibiting their work publicly, officially put themselves in that narrative.
In the future, the Institute for Contemporary Culture really wants to continue this idea of creating student projects, educational initiatives related to our exhibitions, but that are done in a non-traditional manner.
We use the retrospective of Ella Natsui at the Institute as the springboard for Walls and Barriers, a collaborative project.
I liked the method that Ella Natsui used. By sewing all the pieces together and making a big cloth, he took something with one definition and brought it to a completely different one. It's soft, it's malleable, it's warm and comforting. I probably wasn't hitting the exact message that he was by doing this, but I did think it made it a little more appealing.
My topic basically is immigration. So my image that I have here kind of shows a man on a raft, and the mountain has this diamond at the top, but there's a barrier and he can't get through. And I kind of thought that could also be for immigration, because you have all these people in these third world countries who can't get to countries like America and Canada.
I remember immigration being a huge wall and a barrier for me, so I just kind of decided to do that. And then for my picture, for the first time, I just chose like people immigrating, and then I just did kind of like, I photocopied it again, so I want to just put it together and then make like a maybe cool effect.
And my idea just came to me. I don't go through a process. Like, our teacher kind of made us go through a laborious process to try and find our idea. I had it since I was at the ROM.
I'm doing a cultural and language border because my mom is Egyptian, so when I go to Egypt, it's hard for me to communicate with my family. And I feel like even though I've seen them a lot and like we're related, I don't really know them very well, and they don't really know me very well because we can't understand each other. So I'm going to be representing that in my piece.
We started out inking them, scraping into them, and making the press, the etchings with them. And this is basically sort of the idea that the ocean is a barrier. It separates people, it separates us from what we know what's underneath. And so it was a very simple idea, just pick something that's from the ocean and work with that. And then later what we're doing with our plates that we etched on is just cutting out images, pasting them over, and picking social problems, social issues, and working those into our images. Some people are dealing with immigration, some people are doing with like age differences, all sorts of different things, and that's what we're working on now.
Students in different groups have chosen the same subject, and it'll be fascinating once we have all the pieces out.
When they came up with the idea of banning or basically taking away a woman's right to wear her niqab, full veil, in governmental buildings, I kind of felt like they kind of went back on what they stand for. And a full veil for some women is self-empowerment, and if you take that away, you're taking away their identity and who they are.
The students have decided to do a collaborative piece incorporating color and grayscale, and one side is going to be reflective of the negative associations with walls and barriers, and the other side, which will have a see-through component, will be a deconstruction of that, so an intervention.
It's created such a wonderful texture though, hasn't it?
Yes, yeah. And then the back side is a tribute to Ellen Etsui with the tins. It's just from tin cans. And then she hammered.
Can you imagine when he sees this piece?
Yes, yeah.
And she talks to him about the work.
Wouldn't that be great?
It's just a really interesting project because it's really cool issues to look into, and it's something you don't really think about.
I think it's good that younger artists are expressing who they are and what has been holding them back.
Well, I think what's really amazing is that you have these squares, and whether it's 300 squares or 500 squares, the theme is the same, but they're so different in terms of their vision and their execution of it.
In its own right, I think people are going to say, this is really good art.
I chose this controller because you have to be able to assess the situation that you're in and change your game plan. When I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what am I going to do today? Like, what's important, what's not, you know? And that's basically my game plan for day-to-day life. And this helped me express it.
Sometimes when you look deeply inside your heart, like, you see, like, it's not who you are, it's what you inside. This is like a person and his shadow, and at the other side, the lightness, all the colors.
The picture in the middle is actually a representation of Rodney King getting beat up by a policeman for no apparent reason, which kind of like translates to my experience because I've been harassed by police before for no reason. The things on both sides are a hand and a bar that's enclosed and trapped by the fact that you can't get out of it. The red represents that the stop can like have an effect on it, and if it does stop, things could change. However, on the other side, there is no red on the stop, meaning that no one does anything to stop it, and it keeps going, and it just becomes a pattern back and forth, back and forth.
I wrote a whole bunch of negative things that I've heard or I think people might say or think about other people on the clear parts, and some are written facing they're backwards and forwards, sort of to show that, and in different languages, to show that it's worldwide.
Sometimes not really seeing in depth of what's happening, seeing the true meaning of something could be more appealing to some people. Like there's some things that you just try not to dwell on. It's better to see it as lightly as possible.
I did learn a lot this week. It was really interesting to expand on my ideas about African culture.
So I think that it's a really good idea to just sort of get to know yourself.
It was a great experience for the teachers as well, because a lot of our students don't actually know each other and haven't worked together, so they were spreading out, working together, being inspired by each other's work, and it was just a fabulous experience. In terms of a cohesive assignment, it was just something that we haven't experienced ourselves, something I think we'll try to do more of.
We realize that when you actually give kids a forum to be able to be expressive, there are no limits to their creativity.